Hi, this is Sandy. This week we're going to be painting on a t-shirt. You can use any 100% cotton t-shirt. It has to be washed and it has to be dry in order for us to do this. So let's get started. Okay, let's get started. I have a black size 4 t-shirt and it has been washed in the kind of washing that I know it's going to not shrink again. So make sure that you pre-wash your shirt. It has to get all of the sizing out. The shirt cannot have any fabric softener in it. So just wash it on hot water or whatever water you want, and regular detergent, but no fabric softener and no dryer sheets. Throw it in the dryer the way that you're going to be drying it. You don't want this to shrink after you've already painted some beautiful picture on it. Then I have a board. Nothing special about it. It's just, you can use cardboard, whatever kind of board you want. We're going to insert it into the bottom of our t-shirt. And I would like the t-shirt to be a little snug on it. My board is really too short for this t-shirt. So I'm going to have to adjust it. And anytime I have to adjust it, it means I have run a possibility that I'm going to get paint on my shirt. The paint will go through this shirt. So be careful and have it covered in between the different layers. Okay, so here's my shirt. My board goes up to this point right here. Now, you're also going to need paints. I've gotten just regular, it's acrylic paint, and it's a lot of it is the heavy paint, so it isn't very liquidy. I've gotten white, orange, green, and then I've got a paintbrush that it has a lot of, doesn't have a lot of give to the hairs. It's kind of stiff. That's the word I want, is stiff. That's what you're going to need. You're also going to need water. And we're trying not to use the water. So I'm going to be using paper towels to dry off or wipe off my brush. Then we need a chalk pen. This is pastel chalk in white. You could use pastel chalk in yellow, but it has to be a light enough color that we're going to be able to see it. You can also use chalkboard chalk. So it's up to you what you have. Okay, so what are we putting on our shirt? First off, we're going to put a pumpkin. And it's going to be down in the corner. Right about here. So I'm going to draw the pumpkin, maybe right about here. And remember, we talked about drawing pumpkins, and we talked about it being an oval, and then it had lines that followed the outside of the pumpkin that met in the middle. And then it had a stem. Okay? Nice and easy to draw. Then we're going to, the next step, put a ghost behind this pumpkin. And our ghost is going to be very simple. He's going to be up here, and his skirt okay, so I've got his skirt down here, and there's just a couple folds in it. I'm going to go up to the top. We know he's going to have arms, and his arms could just be very simple. And he could be coming down here and holding onto the pumpkin. And his other arm might just be out. Like that. I know that his eyes are going to be here. And his mouth will be here. Okay, I'm going to start with the ghost, because then I can pull my cardboard down. I've got to make sure that it's all the way up to the top. Okay, we're going to do negative painting. We're going to use the black of this shirt to shade our ghost. So I'm going to get started. Just got my paintbrush, and I know sometimes I can get kind of messy, and I really don't want to get this shirt all painted. So I'm putting a paper towel there just to make sure that my shirt isn't going to get dirty there. Okay, I'm starting at the top of the ghost, and I'm really pushing this paint into the fabric. And I'm holding it to try and make sure that it goes into the fabric, right down into the bottom of that fabric. Okay. Do you see how sometimes it gets really white and sometimes it doesn't? That's what I'm going to try and use. I'm going to try and highlight it using that really white stuff. I'm going to go around the eyes. See how I'm pulling this fabric as I'm pushing that paint into it? You can see if I go over a fold, it makes a mark. Some of that fabric paint, or some of the paint gets down there, and it looks like there's a crease. But it's okay, because our ghost isn't perfect. Okay, I'm back up to the top. I'm going over my chalk lines. I'm just painting right on top of them, which that's fine. It's not like we have to wash the chalk out of it. Now, if you're painting this shirt for the first time, I would really suggest you paint exactly what I paint. This isn't the time for you to get creative. The time for you to get creative is when you've got it worked out, that you know exactly how to paint this. Then you can get creative. You draw it out on paper, and you see how easy it is to draw out on paper. And then maybe you're going to try and draw it with a chalk on the fabric. I wouldn't just start painting, because this t-shirt costs money and you don't want to waste it. And once you put paint on this t-shirt, it's done. It's going to be painted. But you can always expand on this. Maybe you're thinking, oh, I'm too manly for a ghost. I want a Frankenstein, which is just fine. I would still try the ghost first. See, can you hear how I'm pushing that paint into that fabric, how I'm holding the fabric down and pushing up away from me? You might have a tendency to just want to brush it on very lightly like this, but it's not getting into the fabric. It's on the top of it. And we really want to push this into the fabric. Okay, I'm getting down to my pumpkin, and I've got to make sure that my pumpkin is not covered in white. So I'm going to go around his stem and around his curved pumpkin body. And then I'm going to push that paint back into that fabric. Okay, this is the arm, if you can see it, of the ghost right here and his body. And I'm going to do this arm first to show you how I'm going to shade my pumpkin or my ghost. Another thing you might want to paint is a bat, especially if you're a Batman fan. You can get really fancy on this pumpkin and then this ghost. You could give him a thumb. Now, if that were his thumb, he would be looking at us. This would be the arm he would be using. So his thumb would be out here. He's going to need a thumb for opening up all that Halloween candy. See how I'm being very careful at the edges of the lines? I'm putting the paint on the outside edge of the line, flicking it towards the center. If I were to try and paint like this, I would not get a good edge. And I really want that edge on my ghost. Now you might wonder, is this going to come out in the wash? And it might a little bit. But when we're done, and it's very, very dry, like in maybe 2 or 3 days dry, we are going to, and I just put my finger in the paint, We are going to iron it with a regular iron, and I will put a video of me ironing it and what you have to watch out for, because we don't want to ruin your mother's iron. Okay, I want this arm to come out on top of his body. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to get a little bit of white and I'm going to kind of shape his arm right here. So it's a little wider than his body. And I think it's kind of funny. I put my arm almost at his mouth. You make your arms a little bit lower. Okay, let's move over to the other side now. And let's work on this arm over here. Remember, his hand is resting on the pumpkin. And maybe he's almost holding onto the stem with his little pumpkin fingers, or his ghost fingers. I could keep putting more and more coats of white just to make sure that I have a good ghost white. It's up to you how many coats you want to put on this. Just remember that this arm is in front of this back, or his stomach area. So it's going to be a little bit whiter. I'm really pressing this paint into this fabric. Okay, we are almost to the point. Let's see, I think over here on this side, he needs a little more. Now, I could go ahead and paint all of my ghost, but I know I am not very neat. And then I might get it on my pumpkin and get my pumpkin in my ghost. So I'm going to switch now. And I'm going to start painting my pumpkin. It's totally up to you if you want to put in the eyes and the nose and the mouth. If you want to do that, you're going to need yellow paint in addition to the paints that I've got out. Okay? So I'm switching, and I'm going to be using orange now. I don't want the white in my brush, so I'm going to take my paper towel, and I'm not going to pull, squeeze and pull. I am going to just make sure that most of the white is out of here. If I were to squeeze and pull, then I might pull my brush bristles out. If I were to use my water, I would then get too much water in here and it wouldn't go onto the fabric correctly. So I'm going to move my board too. got to be careful of that top pumpkin or top ghost. Okay. First of all, I've got the stem. I can put green right there, and I can put orange together. And that's going to make brown. Rather than trying to make a brown, because the brown would get too dark, I'm going to use the orange to make it light. And I'm going to put the pumpkin stem up there. Carefully going around the ghost's hand. Ran out, so I'm going to need some more. Okay, now I'm going to use my orange. Straight orange, and I'm going to pick a side. I'm probably going to go here because I want to make sure I get it in there without having to worry about my hand pulling on this other one. So I'm put it in here like this. On the side where the pumpkin and the ghost meet is where I'm starting my brush stroke and pulling it into the pumpkin. I'm just getting a light coat of orange. And while I do this, we're going to speed up the video and I'll show you how it goes. Okay, so I'm going to catch you up here. I use the black of the shirt to make the lines. And I'm just finishing this one a little bit, and I'll show you. Let's go over here. I know that my outside line is fine. I can go ahead and highlight the center right here. I'm being very careful here how I'm doing this. Okay, it comes all the way down there. Now, I'm going to leave a little space to make that look like a line of the pumpkin. And I'm going to just move over a little bit and highlight the next one. I'm meeting in the center. Normally I would just go from the left all the way over to the right. For some reason the video stopped, and it's kind of hard for us to get it back. So we had to go this way. I'm laying that brush right against that edge of the eye because I want to make sure that I get it highlighted there and one doesn't disappear. Now I'm going to go back over to his middle face and try and get that line back right there. Lay that brush against his mouth. You might wonder why I say don't use fabric softener when you wash this. And that's because the fabric softener creates a barrier on your clothes. And we want to make sure that our barrier that we have is gone so that the paint goes right down here. Now, if you get the paint too thick, it's going to wash off much easier. And when you try to iron it, it's going to iron onto your iron. So you got to be careful. Okay, I think this one right here needs a little more highlight on it. So I'm going to work a little more orange into it. This one here needs a little more. So I'm just working more orange into it. By the time we're done and we stand back and we look at it, it's going to look like a pumpkin, all shaded. Sometimes when we look at it up close, you can't really see it that well. Okay, now I've got to switch to white again because I've got to finish my pumpkin or my ghost skirt. So I'm going to try and get as much of the orange out of this as I can. Then I'm going to take my paintbrush and I'm going to run it in that white and work that white into that orange, and then I'm going to wipe it out. Okay, that should be pretty white now. If I get the brush wet, if you have to, you've got to make sure that brush is really dry. Okay, I would like the ghost behind the pumpkin. So I am going to put this paint out here, not close to the pumpkin, and I'm going to work the white back to it, making it lighter. I don't want it to be real bright back there. Make sure that you hold on to this fabric and you push it away from you. Otherwise, we're going to get this little bitty blend mark right there, and I don't like that. It might be okay for you. You have to decide. Now you can adjust your ghost at this stage. You can say, okay, I'm really not liking this arm over here. I think it needs a little more hair or a little more fabric over here. So I'm going to give him a little more fabric, a little more arm. Oh, I like that much better. Just going to let him rest on that pumpkin. I'm going to give him a little white down here, because I really want his hand to come out. Oh yes, much better. Much, much better. Now I'm going to come over here to the folds in his skirt. And I'll show you how to make it look like they're folds. Much like we used the black on this pumpkin, we're going to do the same thing with the ghost. And wherever there's a fold, I'm going to take and add a little more white to it. Okay, so there's one. Over here, there might be another one right here. And I'm going to brush it into the area, but I'm not going to go all the way up to here. Just going to go over here a little bit. Maybe there's another one right here. So I've got my color laid in. Now I'm just going to take and brush that white this way. So I've created folds, kind of more advanced. If you're not ready to create folds yet, don't do it. Okay, I am about done, except there is a product called Pearlescent Paint. And we're going to put a little bit of that pearlescent paint. It's almost a silver at spots on our ghost. Not all over it, just where you know the light's going to hit him. And we want to be able to make it kind of sparkle. And this will help that. So I'm doing it on my ghost's arms, because I know that's coming away from his body. And I've got to readjust my cardboard. I'm going to put it on the ghost's top of his head, almost like hair. Okay, now there's another trick. This might have to be applied once a year. It'll last pretty much through the season. But I've got a shirt that is about 20 years old that I painted like this. And I know that every year I have to add a little bit of this. It's the puffy paint, the fabric paint that has, I'm going to get all of the color out of my brush, that has glitter in it. And you can shake it up. And it's almost a glue, where it isn't really a paint, but it's got glitter in it. And what you're going to do is you're going to put it on the inside of the eyes. And just rub it in there. Anywhere where you have it black, you don't have to put a real big coat. And you want it pretty flat. So I've got it on my finger, but it's pushed into the fabric. This you might have to, like I say, apply it once a year. When you get your new shirt out. And I'm not putting it all over in the pumpkin's eyes, because I don't want to rub the yellow out. Just going to put a couple lines here and there. And then press it in with my fingers. Now, this is, if you try to sign this, it's going to be very, very difficult. So I wouldn't sign my shirt. But this is done. I can't get rid of this piece of cardboard in between for about a day. And then I want to hang it up and let it dry really good for about 2 days. After 2 days, I'm going to iron it. And when I iron mine, I will put it on a video of it and show you how to protect your iron and how to protect your fingers. So here we are. I hope your shirt turns out great. And really, I would love to see it posted. I'm not seeing anything posted, so I'm not sure I'm getting to anybody. Okay, next time.